Corporate finance practice problem using Excel. Dividends in arrears paid off through issuing stock. Get ready. It's time to take our chance with corporate finance. Here we are in our Excel worksheet. If you have access to the Excel worksheet, would like to follow along, note that we're in the practice tab as opposed to the example tab. The example tab, in essence, being an answer key. Information's on the left-hand side. We're going to populate that into the blue area on the right-hand side. The general problem layout's going to be, we have preferred stock. We haven't paid the dividends in a while, so we have dividends in arrears that we're going to have to figure out. And then we're going to want to be paying them off with the common stock. So we'll determine what common stock will need to be in order to pay off the dividends. Okay, so we have the preferred stock shares of 600,000. The preferred dividends per share is going to be 9, so 9 per share, and the years that they have not yet been paid in arrears are going to be 7. So then the company would like to provide new common stock to the preferred stockholders. So we'd like to pay this off by issuing common stock. The common stock dividends we're estimating for the next 4 years are going to be the 210, the 220, the 250, the 280. And we also have this information with regards to the earnings per share after 4 years, which is estimated to be 4.35. And the price earnings ratio we are estimating to be 17. The common stock value at present value of future dividends plus present value of the future stock price after 4 years. So we're going to have to figure out what we think the value of the common stock will be. In other words, discount rate at the 13%, so that we can determine how much we're going to need in order to pay off the dividends that are in arrears. Okay, so here we go. Let's figure out how much we owe first from the dividends side of things. Remember that the preferred stock dividends generally means we got to pay them first before we pay the common stockholders. We could decide not to pay them. If we do that, then we can't pay the common stockholders because we can't issue dividends generally until we first pay off the preferred stock. If we do not pay them also, the dividends will typically accumulate upwards and we'll have to pay them off again before we can pay off the preferred stockholders, which is where we're at this point in time. So let's see how much we owe then. We're going to say the annual dividends per share. The dividends, annual dividends per share, we're going to say is $9. Preferred dividends per share. Let's do it this way. Let's pick it up this way. Preferred dividends per share. And then we're going to say the shares that are outstanding, preferred stock outstanding, are the 600,000. Let's underline that. Font group and underline. That's going to give us our annual dividends. Annual preferred dividends, which is going to be equal to the 9 times the 600,000. So we owe $5,400,000 a year. We haven't paid for years in arrears, we're going to call it, of 7. That means that we owe at this point in time, let's underline font group and underline, we owe dividends. And you might hear the term dividends arrear age. I would call it how many dividends we have in arrears for the accumulation of 7 years. But dividend arrear age is going to be equal to the 5,400,000 times the 7. So we owe 37,800,000. So we're going to say, okay, that's kind of a lot. We can't really pay it in cash. And our common stockholders want to get some dividends and they'd like us to pay this off so we can give them some money. So how about we issue stock to pay off these dividends? Would that work? So we're going to come up with a plan and see if we can do that. So the company would like to provide new common stock to the preferred stockholders. So we're going to value that common stock to determine how much we're going to need to pay the dividends off. So what we're going to do that is we'll take the present value of the dividends that we're estimating for the 4 years. So that's what we want, the common stock valued at the present value of future dividends plus the present value of the future stock price after the 4 years. So let's first think about the present value of the dividends for 4 years, and then we'll consider the price and present value the price. So this is going to be our dividends for 4 years that we're looking at. We're looking at one stock. It's going to be paying these dividends. And so we can present value that just using our present value calculations. We're going to have to list them out one by one and just simply present value them. Note that if you want more information on how to do this, take a look at a prior section where we focus in on present value calculations themselves. And then you can get some idea just on present value calculations. So I think the easiest way to do this is just to have our years here. And I'm going to put them in 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll typically center them. Go into the alignment and center. So I'm just listing out the years, and we have our cash flow per year. They're different, so we can't really do an annuity calculation here. we're just going to do present value of each one of them. So I'm just going to list out the cash flow, which is going to be the 210. And let's make all 4 of these. Let's go ahead and add some decimals with them. I'm going to select all 4, number group, add a couple decimals. I'll select that first one and just drag the autofill down, which should populate the other cells with what should be there. So we just populated the numbers in here. And now I'm just going to present value them all back to period 0, the period that we are in, with a present value of 1 calculation. I'm going to do this in Excel. You could do this with tables. You could do this with a table, or you could do it with a mathematical formula. If you want more information on how to do that in multiple ways, take a look at the present value section, but we'll do it with an Excel function here. Negative, present value, shift 9, rate. The rate is going to be, what did we say the rate was? It was down here somewhere, way down here, 13% discount rate. That's the rate we're using. And then comma, and then I'm going to pick up the number of periods, which is 1, which is nice and convenient because I have the cell with just a 1 in it, which I could then copy down, making it very easy for me to autofill this down. But I'll calculate each one of them first, and then we'll do the autofill, so I won't do any hard coding or dollar signs in there or absolute references or anything like that yet. We'll do that next time. And then comma, comma, and then the future value is going to be that $2.10, 2 commas because it's not an annuity but present value of 1. So there we have it. Let's select these cells then and go to the number group and add some decimals to them. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'll do it 4 times, and then we'll use the autofill. So negative, present value, shift 9, rate is going to be that 13%. If I was to copy it down, I would want to then hit F4 on it, but I'll do that again later. And then comma, number of periods is going to be this 2. Notice I'm picking them up in this cell. That makes it easier to copy it down, comma, comma, because it's not an annuity, but present value of 1, future value the 210 or the 220. That 220 present value 2 years back, now at 1.75. Let's do it again. Negative present value, shift 9. Rate is going to be the 13%. I'm going to say F4 on the keyboard, comma, and the F4, I'm not going to use it right now, but that would allow me to copy it down. That allows me to copy it down. Then comma, number of periods is now 3, which is nice and convenient in its own cell over here, comma, comma, because it's not an annuity. 2.5. Present value back 3 periods to 1.73. One more time, present value, shift 9, rate is going to be the 13%. I'm going to say F4 if I wanted to copy it down, comma, number of periods is now 4, comma, comma, future value 280, present value back 4 periods is now at the 1.72. Now let's do it the fast way and copy it down. I'm going to delete what we just did, do it one more time. Negative present value, shift 9. I'm going to implement it so it'll be easy to just copy down now, which means I'm going to take the rate over here, 13%. I'm going to make that an absolute reference by putting a dollar sign before the B and the 26. I could do that by selecting F4 on the keyboard. You only need a mixed reference, but an absolute reference works too, and it's easier to do. So number of periods is going to be this 1. That one I do not want an absolute reference because I want to be able to copy it down, and it should move along with it, comma, comma. And then the future value is going to be that 210. Again, I don't want an absolute reference there. I want to copy it down and enter. Then I'm just going to autofill, put our cursor back here, and then autofill on down. So there we have it. We've done it again. So this is going to be the present value of the dividends. Dividends. And let's sum that up. Equals the SUM, shift 9. Summing it up, that's going to be 7, adding a couple decimals, number group, couple decimals there, we're at the 7.03. So now we want to pick up the present value of the price at the end of the 4-year time period, and they've given us these calculations to do so. So we got the earnings per share after 4 years estimated to be that, and the price earnings ratio. So if you think about this, the earnings per share ratio is going to be the earnings, which is the net income divided by the number of shares. And the price earnings ratio is going to be simply the price compared to the earnings. So let's first, I would think about the price earnings ratio and then back into what we want, which is the price, the unknown. And the price is in the price earnings ratio. So let's use that price earnings ratio and see, okay, we want to back into the price. I'm not going to try to rework it algebraically. I'm just going to put it into the normal function of a price earnings ratio, which is simply price divided by the earnings per share. So we're going to say price, this is the unknown, I'll make it yellow. This is what we're actually backing into. You could do this, of course, algebraically too, write down the algebraic formula. And then the earnings per share is going to be, let's just call it the earnings per share is going to be equal to that 4.35. Let's add some decimals, number group, add a couple decimals there, and then we have the price earnings ratio. And so it would normally be, this divided by this, but we know the end number, which is 17. And therefore, if the yellow number times or divided by this equals 17, I should be able to multiply it out to back into the price, just doing the algebra here. So we're going to say the 4.35 times the 17. So you might want to write it out, of course, this way. You can say, well, X plus, or, you might call it P for the price, plus the earnings per share, which is the 4.35, is going to be equal to the 17. And you can write it out and do it algebraically if that's easier to see for many people that like the good old paper and pencil method. So we're going to go font group and underline, and I would just double check it over here just to check it out. So if I took the 74 divided by this 4.35, do I get to the 17? We do. So the price then, we're saying after 4 years is 74. That's the price after 4 years. So we got to bring that price back to the current period, year 0, to get to our current period. So I'm going to do the present value of 1 now, present value of that 74, negative present value, shift 9, the rate, once again, 13%, comma, number of periods. I'm just going to hard code it in at 4, and then comma, comma, because it's not an annuity, but present value of 1, and the future value is that 74 that we're bringing back 4 periods to get to the 45.35. So the 45.35. So that gives us the stock price of this 45.35 after 4 years and the dividends for that 4-year time period. So we're going to say the 45.35 plus the 7.03 gives us the value of the 52.39. So that's what we think the value of the stock is going to be. So if that's the value of the stock, how many are we going to have to give these preferred stockholders in order to pay off the debt that we have due to the dividends from the preferred stock? We haven't paid the dividends in arrears. Well, okay, that's easy. We're just going to say we owe the dividends of this amount that we calculated first, 37,800,000. And the stock price we're saying is going to be this 52.39. That's the value that we came to. Number group, adding a couple decimal, font group, underline. That gives us the number of shares that we are going to need. How many shares do we need then? We need this amount we owe divided by the 52.39, or about the 721,565. Obviously, there could be decimals. We can't really issue a half share, so we'd have to do some rounding involved there as well. So that's basically the idea. So the idea, we've got this has accumulated upwards. We owe these people money. The common stockholders are probably upset that they're not getting any dividends because we have these dividends to the preferred stockholders we haven't paid off. We would like to pay them off by issuing actually common stock to get this debt done with, calculating the common stock value to do so, and then thinking about how many shares we would have to issue in order to pay these preferred shareholders off. So possibly we can start issuing dividends. Some of it may be going actually to the common stockholders, which would be nice. Which we're actually planning to do, of course, because that's what we plan to do here with this next 4 years for the common stockholders.